both players have their headsets on right now, and they are getting ready to get underway here. We see their accomplishments here. Joe Ugarte to the left, 3 times getting top 4 at the International Championships, 2-time Portland Regional Champion, 4-time regional finalist. Not sure if that is inclusive of this one, as well as making it to World's Top Cut twice. Over on the other side, Carson with Louisville. The top 16 at Louisville Regional Championships in 2025, this past run, actually. Of course, we've already mentioned it, Sao Paulo Latin American International Champion in 2018. Also, that was a great season right there. Also got top 4 at the EUIC in London, and of course, the Senior Division World Champion in San Francisco in 2016.
Yeah, 2 very impressive players, and again, both of them kind of using interesting teams, right? I mean, certainly we've seen how powerful they are with variations of them making it all the way to the end of recent tournaments. But again, a couple months ago, I feel like if you had a slide for the Pokémon, well, the trainers have all these accomplishments. The Pokémon would be like, Typhlosion, happy to be here, but proving its power this weekend.
Yeah, I got confirmation that this is actually Joe's 5th regional finalist appearance. So adding to that number here, we see the team. You've already seen it on screen. It's the Garchomp, Jumpluff, Torkoal, Dragonite, Kingambit, and the Hisuian Typhlosion. We've seen how much damage this Hisuian Typhlosion can do when it's boosted by the sun, boosted by the choice specs. And also, hey, you want a little bit more damage? You can also Terrasilize into the fire type to get more damage from your eruptions, heat waves, overheats, whatever you want.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by the way he's maneuvered that Torkoal too. Always seems to eject at just the right times. And as Carson's, or as I guess as Carson's support there, Marcus pointed out, the Jumpluff could be a key Pokemon in this matchup. Quicker than everything on the field. So it'll be exciting to see if, as it was in the previous 2 times we see Joe, if Jumpluff can kind of help carry the match, or if its luck will run out and the sleep powders will, perhaps start misfiring.
Gotta hit those sleep powders. Not 100% accurate, but when they hit, they can be devastating to the game plan. Yesterday during an interview with Joe, he mentioned that if you're gonna take the risk, you got to be able to accept what happens if you don't basically get what you want from taking that risk, right? So how's Joe gonna mitigate that? How is he gonna take it? How is he gonna kind of adapt to it if those sleep powders don't hit?
Yeah, and he's a player too, where most of his teams have this sort of variance to them. And he's still made it to the finals of regionals 5 times, right? He's navigated this sort of math better than anyone else. And, I think it's really a great comfort team for him as well, right? Where we've seen him using so many of these Pokemon repeatedly. The Torkoal Jumpluff thing, the Kingambit in particular kind of being trademark Pokemon at this point.
Yep. Over on Carson's side, we saw this team earlier, just a little bit ago. It's going to be that hyper-offensive team with Sneasler, Electabuzz, Blood Moon, Ursaluna, Incineroar, Indeedee, Mail, and Talonflame. So again, that hyper-offensive option here. So it's going to be about, hey, I need control of the speed, and also I need to knock out your Pokemon before we can knock out mine.
I'll be excited to see how Carson and his friend Marcus have opted to approach this matchup. I think it is sort of interesting where in the previous matchup where we saw the mirror, it was a very Sneasler-based matchup. It was kind of the hero of that. I think there's some question whether or not that comes this matchup or not. It's only the quickest Pokemon on the team, so if you're just trying to match speed, a tailwinded, unburdened Sneasler is certainly going to be the fastest Pokemon available. We did see Sneasler be pretty impactful in the other top 4 match, but not necessarily a must-bring. The Incineroar, another one, will be very interesting to see whether they bring it or not. The positive being that it's very strong against the Jumpluff and sort of the Typhlosion, but also that it might be weaker against some other members of the team and certainly struggle against the Garchomp in particular. A Pokemon that always seems to do poorly on usage, but then shows up in these final matches.
Both players have now locked their teams. Let's get into it. The finals here at the Sacramento Regional Championships between Joe Ugarte and Carson Confer. Both players now getting ready to send out their leads. Give it up for both of these players right now. Both finalists here vying for this title of Regional Champion. Here we go. Carson leading with Sneasler and Talonflame. Over on Joe's side, we'll be leading with Torkoal and Jumpluff.
So Carson opting to go fast here, right? With the option for a Tailwind and the initial speed of Sneasler being so quick, seeing if you can go fast. On the other side of the field, Joe proving that, we've talked before, nothing on this team is quicker naturally than Jumpluff is, and, perhaps we'll find out whether or not he really can hit all of his sleep powders for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, so Jumpluff is boosted by that Chlorophyll. Carson does have opportunity to go for a Tailwind here with that priority Gale Wings to try to mitigate the amount of speed, but it's going to be a lot to sacrifice because Jumpluff can just go straight for a sleep powder. And here we go. It looks like we're going to be terastallizing right off the bat. It is going to be the Jumpluff terastallizing, becoming the poison type here, trying to resist the Dire Claw that could potentially go this way, as well as remove its weakness to a potential dual Wing Beat, maybe even a Flare Blitz from that Talonflame. So Sneasler on Carson's side will protect itself here, wants to see what is going to happen, as Jumpluff over on Joe's side will go for a Tailwind, gonna make it go real fast here, as Talonflame over on Carson's side connects with a Flare Blitz. So a smart terastallization there to ensure that the Jumpluff will survive. But now Torkoal gets a move, goes for an Overheat, gonna hit into that Talonflame and does not get the KO from that range, but because of the eject pack, will switch out and allow Joe to react to what has happened here in turn 1.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic first turn for Joe. Not only to survive, but critically getting that Tailwind off, the Flare Blitz recoil, and the Overheat. Either one would be enough to break the Gale Wings on that Talonflame. And now Dragonite going to come in here, enjoy this Tailwind, and this speedy Jumpluff could threaten a Sleep Powder on any Pokemon on the team, while Dragonite starts threatening damage.
Yeah, so Dragonite can go for an opportunity to go for an extreme speed to hit that Talonflame, or just go straight on the offensive, but Jumpluff has that speed advantage, can't go for Sleep Powder.
Yeah, or an Encore, right? Where
yeah.
It's a pretty awkward situation for Carson now. Protecting in front of a Jumpluff is always a dangerous maneuver. Perhaps expecting Sleep Powder on that first turn instead of the Tailwind, and now Carson's really getting the back foot where he's going to need to reposition to get in a better spot here, as Joe is both threatening knockouts and lockouts.
Yeah, nice, Scott. That's great. I'm really rubbing off on you, aren't I? But yes, you're right. When you're playing up against Jumpluff, it's very tough to play against because it's so pesky. You have to be careful about protecting against those Sleep Powders because you can easily get locked into an Encore, and Carson does not want to get locked in there, so Incineroar will take the field for the Sneasler that had just protected the turn before. As Jumpluff goes for the Encore here, it does land into that Incineroar, so it's going to fail, and here it is, Dragonite using an Ice Spinner, going to connect on that Talonflame and get the KO.
A nice first knockout for Joe there, but Incineroar going to come in here and end up in a pretty decent position where it was a solid matchup with both the Pokemon remaining on the team, was able to get that Intimidate down on the Dragonite, and I'm only curious if this is what Joe was expecting or not. Ice Spinner there was going to be a nice knockout either way, but perhaps trying to catch like an Indeedee on the switch maybe to activate the Unburden on Sneasler. No Indeedee to be found, but hey, a knockout's a knockout.
Yeah, so Talonflame goes down. Carson has a chance to send in either that Sneasler or reveal that fourth Pokemon, but yeah, definitely trying to use that Ice Spinner to catch an Indeedee switch and wipe up and clean up that terrain. Sneasler will take the field here for Carson to replace the fallen Talonflame now, and now, yep, it's up to what Joe can do here.
Yeah, so Joe sort of, he's got a Pokemon advantage, but in an awkward spot, you get this weakened Jumpluff, and you'd probably like to preserve it long enough to Tailwind one more time later. Dragonite's been intimidated, so you'd like to shed that at some point. So now Joe's the one who needs to reposition a little bit and try to push his advantage again later in the match.
Yeah, so Jumpluff heavily damaged, and also a terastallization sink right there, right? You use that terastallization on that Jumpluff, can opt for more damage if they have that Hisuian Typhlosion in the bag. Dragonite will be the Pokemon that switches out this turn here, does not want to get faked out and doubled up with the Dire Claw into that slot here, as Torkoal will be the Pokemon that takes the field to replace the Dragonite. Sneasler over on Carson's side will protect again. You have to watch out again for that Encore if you don't deal with it. Jumpluff going for a Sleep Powder here. It hits into that Sneasler Protect, so smart Protect right there from Carson, and this Incineroar should be following up. It is going to be knocking off that Jumpluff and gets a KO right there, so smart play from Carson.
Yeah, easy knockout there, and now both sides are going to be tied at 3. It does enable a free switch for Joseph, so he's got one of two options, right? You can either bring in that unrevealed Pokemon or bring Dragonite back now that that Intimidate has been shed, and we just see Dragonite coming back in. So, in a decent spot here, no longer Intimidated, and Incineroar would have to come in and out in order to cause some problems there. And, this Torkoal, even though as a slow Pokemon in the field is not necessarily threatening a lot of damage, it has some options here, right? Burning Jealousy could do decent damage to the Sneasler and potentially any switch in on the Incineroar slot if Carson does try to cycle, and Dragonite could deal big damage to either of these Pokemon with its suite of attacks, as well as sort of like threaten a little bit more with the potential of Helping Hand, right? So some plays that otherwise might feel safe would be a little bit more for Carson to have to think about here.
Yeah, so it is actually going to be the King Gambit in the bag for Joe, so no Hisuian Typhlosion for later on. Here's a Scale Shot from that Dragonite, connects. It looks like it is going to be close as to whether or not 4 hits will be able to do it, but it's going to rely on that 5th hit. Is it going to go for a 5th hit? No, it only hits 4 times right there. So Sneasler hangs on with just a sliver of HP, so needed that 5th hit. Here's a Dire Claw from that Sneasler, connects into that Dragonite. No roll there. Incineroar using knockoff, doubling up in that Dragonite, gets the KO from that range.
Well, that's a big knockout there. We'll have to see if Torkoal can respond in kind. It should easily pick up a knockout. The Sneasler, if it uses anything. Yeah, Burning Jealousy going to pick up this knockout and bring us to a 2-2 game.
Yeah, so now it's going to be an unrevealed Pokemon on Carson's side. We see Joe has that King Gambit in the back as the Tailwind peters out on Joe's side. What is that last Pokemon on Carson's side going to be? It is going to be the Indeedee there. So King Gambit loves seeing the Indeedee, but at the same time does not have a Terastallization to try to protect itself from this Incineroar. Yeah,
this is going to be a tricky situation here for Joseph, where none of these Pokemon really going to deal with Incineroar very well, right? The King Gambit does have low kick with this Assault Vest set, but also weak against the Fire-type attacks of this Incineroar. Torkoal not going to be able to itself dish out a whole lot of damage to the Incineroar, but again, has the option of a helping hand to try to power up this King Gambit.
Yeah, so here we go. This is going to be a crucial turn here between these last two Pokemon over on Carson's side and Joe's side. So here we go. Coming into this turn, Carson's team will Terastallize it. It is going to be the Indeedee. It is going to become that Psychic type again, trying to do as much damage as possible to this Torkoal with that expanding force. So how much damage is going to be dealt from this Indeedee here as Torkoal content to just go for a helping hand this turn, boost the attack of King Gambit. It is going to be the expanding force from that Indeedee. Does not affect King Gambit, and here it goes, landing into that Torkoal. Torkoal, not the most especially bulky Pokemon, hangs on with just a sliver of hit points, and here's a Flare Blitz from Carson's Incineroar, doing damage and gets a KO on King Gambit.
Oh, it's a critical hit with help from the sun as well. If King Gambit would have been able to knock out that Incineroar, there would have been no way for Indeedee to deal damage to it, but Incineroar picked up the knockout, and Carson's going to pick up this first game.
Yeah, as the harsh sunlight fades there. So again, the downside of that King Gambit carrying that Assault Vest could not protect itself to try to stall out that sun. So looks like Joe is going to cancel this battle, and Carson is one game away from winning this whole championship.
Yeah, excellent first game there. Went back and forth. Joe probably kicking himself a little bit. A helping hand on that one attack from Dragonite would have knocked out the Sneasler without any additional cost to him, since he needed to double tap it anyway. So unfortunate roll there, where a fifth shot instead would have changed things. But we see how volatile this match is, right? Could easily have gone either way. Again, I'm a little curious too if Joe got what he was expecting, where both Fire-type Pokemon appearing, so a very different look of this team than what we saw in the previous round.
Yeah, so again, that Terastallization from the Jump Bluff early on helped it survive that Flare Blitz, but at the same time, you couldn't really Terastallize that King Gambit defensively to try to avoid taking that Flare Blitz. Granted, you would also be taking an Expanding Force at that point, so that's a tough spot to be in when you're Joe. Where do you Terastallize the best? Yes, Jump Bluff was able to get off that Tailwind and try to go for some Sleep Powers and threaten with Encore, but at the same time, Jump Bluff kind of just sat there.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see what happens in this second game there. I think one key Pokemon that we did not see from Joe's side of the field was the Garchomp, which ordinarily would have done a great job of checking the Pokemon that we saw, particularly the the Incineroar. And I think that's probably a sign that maybe Joe was expecting Carson to bring different Pokemon. However, it's not such an easy adjustment in the second game, right? Because you can't assume that Carson's going to do the same thing. And I think in a matchup like this one, where based on Pokemon choice or a couple of rolls, the outcome of the match can easily go different ways. It's a big edge to be up 1-0, right? Joe's got to kind of get the team preview right twice in a row now and play out the game well, where Carson, if you can find an edge with this hyper offensive team and push it through once in the 2 remaining games of this set, it's going to make him a regional champion once again.
Carson 1 game away from taking the title. Joe needs to claw back and force a game 3 here. Both players sending out their leads. Looks like Carson's going to change it up. It's going to be Electabuzz and Ursaluna over on Joe's side. No change. Torkoal and the Jump Bluff.
I really like this lead for Carson. He does switch it up a little bit. We see Ursaluna for the first time. I think this might have been more what Joe was expecting in this first game. So Carson perhaps keeping a little off guard. Electabuzz really getting to show some of its benefit here. We see it spamming the Electro Web the previous round. This time the option of following away Sleep Powder, which it can then block with its Vital Spirit, makes it much stronger into this Jump Bluff matchup than some of its alternatives would have been in that redirector slot.
And this Ursaluna immediately threatening some offense here. Can go for an Earth Power into that Torkoal slot, or just go for a Blood Moon, or even a Hyper Voice if you want to get some spread damage down. Carson's Ursaluna will Terastallize into that normal type. Looks like it's going to be like basically going for a Hyper Voice or a Blood Moon, trying to just get as much damage as possible. Electabuzz opting for Follow Me here, trying to redirect away a possible Sleep Powder, as Jumpluff opting for this turn to go for a Tailwind, just providing that support instead, seeing through the Follow Me Vital Spirit play here, as Torkoal going for an Overheat, redirected from that Electabuzz, does good damage, about over 50%, will be able to eject itself here because of that eject pack and allow Joe to react here.
Well, that's scary, though. I don't know what on Joe's team you really want to switch into an attack from this Blood Moon. Could potentially be a big attack in that slot. It's sort of telegraphed with Joe's team. He's going to Overheat, right? So if you're expecting the speed tiers to be in this order, could easily be a Blood Moon or a powerful Hyper Voice. Garchomp's going to come in here. If it survives this turn, it could be pretty impactful, but this is a scary spot.
Yep, Ursaluna using Hyper Voice here, terrestrialize into that normal type. Same type attack bonus, does big damage. Both Pokemon hang on, so the Garchomp and the Jumpluff hang on. Most importantly, now Joe is working behind a Tailwind now.
Yeah, sort of a tough position, though. I think the speed of Joe's Pokemon are going to work against him here, where you'd love to Earthquake and then follow that up on the Ursaluna with attack for the Jumpluff. Because Jumpluff's faster, it's kind of useless this turn, switching out of battle for the Dragonite instead. And we'll have to see what Garchomp does, but I don't think there's probably going to be enough damage down to stop Ursaluna from attacking again if it wants to.
Yeah, so Garchomp has to protect itself here. Joe just trying to reposition himself to be in a better spot, as Electabuzz will also use his turn to protect, possibly expecting an Earthquake from that Garchomp, but now Ursaluna gets to move. Ursaluna will just opt for a Protect here instead. It is going to fail because it is the last Pokemon to move and using Protect.
Yeah, so good and bad there, where I think Ursaluna's attack or Protect still being available for Carson is very attractive, and I think it's pretty likely that's going to happen on this turn, but a good switch for Joe, or now he does have the speeds of his Pokemon staggered in the correct order. Garchomp can Earthquake with a follow-up attack from Dragonite that will go into the Ursaluna slot. I think on Carson's side of the field, unless you think it's worth it to switch something like any potential Incineroar in to weaken the attacks of these Pokemon, likely going to just sacrifice the Electabuzz here.
Yeah, Garchomp and Dragonite, double dragons. You love to see it when you have a dragon type that can be Earthquake and then a dragon type that's flying. So this Dragonite is immune to that Earthquake. Gonna be... You're right, like this is great position here for Joe. Electabuzz content to just go for a Follow Me, but again, because of the way that these speeds work, this Garchomp will be able to go for an Earthquake here, get the KO on that Electabuzz, and now Dragonite will get to follow up here. What is it going to be from this Dragonite? If it's the Scale Shot, that has a chance to KO. So now, Garchomp taking the Life Orb recoil. Here's this Dragonite Scale Shot. There's one hit. Oh, this is going to be close.
I don't think it's going to do it.
That's 2 hits right there. That's 3 hits right there. Yeah, that's going to be enough.
Oh, he's going to need it again.
Oh, one more hit. No!
Oh, he can't get it again. 2 games in a row. It's only 4 hits.
Only 4 hits right there for the Dragonite Scale Shot, and here's a Hyper Voice from that Ursaluna. It is going to connect onto that Garchomp, breaking that multi-scale from that Dragonite there. So unfortunate for Joe, but great for Carson. The Ursaluna will knock itself out from that Life Orb recoil, but just 1 Scale Shot away from getting that KO and having a clean turn there for Joe.
Yeah, that would have been a huge difference in this match. I think if Garchomp is still around, if the multi-scale is still active on Dragonite, we're talking about the adjustments for Game 3. Instead, it really depends on what Carson's back Pokemon are. There's definitely a world where, even though Joe still has the Pokemon advantage, that enough damage has been done that Carson can clean this one up.
Yep, it's going to be the Sneasler for Carson, as well as the Indeedee. So now this Sneasler is going to be super fast. The Psychic Terrain is going to take effect. Again, that Psychic Seed Unburden combo, just making Sneasler such a menace here.
Yeah, very awkward position as well, where, this Sneasler, it's a little different set that we've seen some other Sneasler in the tournament. It does have the Unburden ability to double its speed. Tailwind's still active, but, both these Pokemon are able to protect and potentially just stall that out and then allow Sneasler to become one of the quickest Pokemon in the field.
Yeah, so Carson has a line here to be able to stall out this Tailwind, and now how is Joe going to react to that? Is Joe going to predict it? Is Joe going to be like, all right,
he's considering the self Ice Spinner to get rid of the terrain. I think that would be a bit of an aggressive move, but we may be seeing it.
All right, Sneasler going to opt for Protect here. Again, trying to stall out this Tailwind. Indeedee will also go for Protect here, and now it is going to be this Jumpluff going for a move, gonna hit a Sleep Powder into these Protects, but this is a move for the ages here if we saw that correctly. Dragonite is gonna use Ice Spinner, does connect on that Jumpluff, cleans up the terrain and knocks out the Jumpluff to allow that Torkoal to safely switch in.
This man does not care about Pokemon advantages, able to safely get Torkoal in here. Definitely comes at a significant cost there with Tailwind petering out, won't be replaced. The Torkoal does get into battle safely, though. Does have a high defense stat that maybe could be impactful here, and no longer a threat of a stronger double target expanding force now that the Psychic Terrain has been defeated, albeit at the cost of poor Jumpluff's health points.
Yeah, so smart play right there to kind of remove the options here for Indeedee. Now Carson actually has a single target because the terrain's been removed, as well as getting that Torkoal in. So smart play right there from Joe to side target that Jumpluff. You know, Jumpluff would have been cool too to just stick around and possibly go for, well, can't really encore, it actually just fall to the Sneasler. So smart play right there from Joe. Here it is, Indeedee opting for the helping hand here, not trying for an expanding force single target. It is gonna help out the Sneasler. Dragonite protects itself this turn. Where is this Sneasler gonna attack? Is it going to be the Dragonite Protect, or is it going to be into that Torkoal? It is a Dire Claw into that Dragonite Protect. So now Torkoal will be able to move here. It is going to go for a Burning Jealousy to connect onto both Indeedee and Sneasler and start chipping away as the sunlight fades.
Yeah, I mean, chipping away is the right word for it there, where not quite the damage output you might hope for. Sneasler's still going to be the quickest Pokemon in the field, so there's not like an obvious way to stop that in this turn. But, you know, if Carson were to go for that again, you know, the combination of an Overheat or an Extreme Speed as being covered would definitely pick up the Sneasler if you think that Torkoal could then win a duel from there. But that comes at a hefty cost too, right? You know, do you think Torkoal could still win the one-on-one if it overheats and reduces its own special attack? Can you pick up the knockout on Sneasler only using a Burning Jealousy and an Extreme Speed? What if you just attack into a Protect now, which again is an option for the Sneasler? Joe's going to make the right call here. His tournament life is on the line. Carson, he could win the game with the right call, but he's still get another game if he doesn't, and that's a huge Extreme Speed.
There's an Extreme Speed, but Indeedee hangs on. Here's a Dire Claw from that Dragonite. Dragonite hangs on, and Indeedee will double up with an expanding force here to secure the knockout on that Dragonite, but now this Torkoal gets to move. It does have the spread move in Burning Jealousy. Will KO the Indeedee from that range, and now Sneasler versus Torkoal. Is Torkoal gonna have what it takes to be able to defeat the Sneasler? Of course, when there's a Sneasler, there's a Dire Claw.
Yeah, I mean, not only there's the added effects potential here, but yeah, I mean, with the damage of Burning Jealousy, I don't think it's like a sure thing that this is going to be enough. Does the option of a Terastallization here, while it's not going to improve Joe's damage, could potentially reduce the damage that is incoming from Sneasler, maybe give him a second shot at it if he's very fortunate.
Yep, and now it is going to be the Torkoal Terastallizing into the Flying type here. You know, also removes that close combat effectivity, right? Now it's going to be a not very effective close combat. So how's this Dire Claw going to roll here? Sneasler goes for a Dire Claw. Is there a roll here? What's going to happen? Nope, Torkoal hangs on, goes for the Overheat and gets the K. Nope, not yet. Sneasler hangs on. Sneasler, because of that Psychic Seed boost, basically paying off here. So now here's another Dire Claw from that Sneasler, connects to that Torkoal. No roll. Torkoal, another Overheat connects. But the drop, yes, it's still enough to get the KO.
What a set. So we're moving on to a game 3 there with a very exciting second game. And, you know, Joe's still got to win one war to get through this regional championships. But how about that set, right, where that game, rather, hits the self-target Ice Spinner to remove the Psychic Terrain. It winds up mattering, gets him in a position where he can win this second game and keep his tournament life alive. Win or lose, you've got to give him credit for that one. How many players would even see that play, but then also be willing to make that play on stream? Could have been very embarrassing if it didn't work out. All the guts of the world there.
If there was no double protector, that would have been super tough to watch. But again, that Ice Spinner to remove that Psychic Terrain did so much work, right? Not only did it allow Torkoal to switch in, well, you know, most importantly, remove the terrain, but that was a big removal of the terrain, right? That actually allowed that Dragonite to be able to Extreme Speed as well. So smart play right there from Joe to find that line and be able to find this play here that paid off so well.
Yeah, I think it really mattered too, because Jumpluff wasn't really contributing much of anything there, right? Where you know, able to get the more threatening Torkoal out, and what we saw, its you know, offensive power is a little bit limited. It was just enough.
Yeah, and that was also a nice survival right there from that Dragonite, hanging on 4 HP to draw away that other expanding force. Otherwise, that would have been more damage down on that Torkoal. And here is that duel between that Torkoal and that Sneasler. What a battle between these two trainers, and now we're going to game 3, Scott.
I kind of love how that played out too, where poor Joe just can't find the 5th hit on Scale Shot, but I guess the trade-off there is that Dire Claw decided not to Dire Claw things this time. I'm sure to the many Sneasler hater out there's joy and It's really exciting to see what we get in this game 3. I would not say necessarily that Joe won team preview in that second game. I'm not sure if he got exactly what he's expecting. Was able to find a path through the game anyway, but really makes this game 3 even more exciting where, even for a little more neutral or maybe a little disadvantageous matchup, Joe was able to come out on top. Anything could happen in this third game.
And here we go, game 3 between Carson Confer and Joe Ugarte. The winner take all here. Jumpluff and Torkoal for Joe. Carson leading with Sneasler and Talonflame.
All right, so Carson back, I believe, to the same lead combination he used in that first game, while Joe, as usual, kind of seeing the combination of this Torkoal and this Jumpluff. I guess you'd expect once again to see a Tailwind overheat play. We'll have to see what Carson does in response.
Yeah, so Carson got a great advantage in game 1 because of targeting down that Jumpluff, as well as forcing that Jumpluff to terrestrialize. The terrestrialization was really nice in game 2 for Joe to have available to the Torkoal, but, having that Jumpluff take that terrestrialization was kind of a sink in game 1. So how is this going to differ now between game 1 and game 3? It is going to be the Jumpluff terrestrializing again, wants to be able to survive the Flare Blitz from that Talonflame that is boosted by this, because Talonflame is a fire type, as well as boosted by the Sun. So now this Jumpluff is a poison type. These are protecting itself this turn, does not want to get put to sleep or just hit with an overheat here, as Talonflame will set up a Tailwind. We'll see if Jumpluff decides to match that Tailwind as well. Looks like Jumpluff will match that Tailwind, so both teams now are fighting behind Tailwinds against each other, as Torkoal will use this turn to go for an overheat here, and Talonflame dodges the attack right there. That would have been huge to be able to break the Gale Wings and switch out that Torkoal.
Yeah, that's a big miss. Critically, doesn't activate a bunch of different things that mattered, right? And the damage could matter too. We saw this line play out the first game and it didn't go in Joe's favor. Now this time it's even more against him with that overheat miss, kind of putting him a turn behind. This could be a really difficult spot for him. Let's see if he can dig his way out of this. But based on how game 1 went, not looking great. And Sneasler going to get out of this battle scot-free.
Yeah, Sneasler has to switch out again. That Jumpluff does have access to that Encore, does not want to get locked into it. And this is exactly the same thing that's happening in game 1.
Yeah, although it's critically different because this is going to get rid of Torkoal, right? So Overheat's not going to go off this time. Eject Pack is going to activate, forcing a switch mid-turn. Carson knew this was going to happen, so potentially could have targeted into that Torkoal slot knowing it would be someone else.
Yeah, so Incineroar will take the field here. Dragonite will take the field for that ejecting Torkoal there because of that Incineroar switch. So now Jumpluff opts for a Sleep Powder here. Oh, it looks like it's not going to affect that Incineroar because of the safety goggles here. And here is a Will-O-Wisp from that Talonflame. Hits into the Dragonite. So a great play right there from Carson to force a switch into basically what could have been any physical attacker, whether it's Garchomp, Dragonite, or possibly even the King Gambit in the back.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? Based on the Pokemon we've seen before, only were physical attackers in the back last game. It turns out there were some options there, but not what Joe selects. And it's a really tough spot now, right? Where he's not really accomplished anything other than setting a Tailwind. He has a burn physical attacker out. He's a Jumpluff that doesn't really do any damage output even in the best of times, but we've seen 3 Pokemon so far. All of them resist grass type attacks. So Joe finds himself in a really tough spot here. He's going to need that 4th Pokemon to do some serious damage. We'll have to see if he can maneuver in a position where he can get it back in this game. Otherwise, we can speak Carson Confer as a regional champion.
Yeah, we saw that Hisuian's Typhlosion is going to be the Pokemon that is hiding in the back. Jumpluff wants to switch out here, does not want to stay in. Joe needs to go on the offensive here. Torkoal will be taking the field for that Jumpluff as now we go into the rest of the turn. Talonflame uses Will-O-Wisp, does not affect that Torkoal, so a smart switch right there from Joe. Here's the Scale Shot from the Dragonite, hitting into that Incineroar. That's going to be at least 4 hits. Is it going to get the 5th hit this time? Not that it's going to matter too much in this instance here. That extra damage may add up later on as the Scale Shots continue to hit, as it does finally get the 5 hits.
A kind of insult to injury there, right? Of course this is the time where it finally gets all the hits.
Yep, Dragonite's defense will drop, the speed will rise though. Here's a Flare Blitz in that Torkoal. Torkoal is a very physically bulky Pokemon, so it takes that very well, as Dragonite importantly has that multi-scale broken because of these burn damages.
Yeah, pretty nice switch there, and you're actually kind of threatening a potential knockout in the Incineroar. May not go for it, but a helping hand Scale Shot would have a real chance of picking that one up. So at least Joe back in the position where he's threatening kind of getting some trades. I think it's going to be very important for him to weaken these 2 fire-type Pokemon to set himself up for a stronger end game.
Yeah, so now Joe has to figure out what the best target is. Here's a dual Wing Beat doing a lot of damage because of that defense drop from earlier, bringing Dragonite down to under 50%. Talonflame does do some damage there as Dragonite connects with the Scale Shot here. Going to be at least 4 hits. Is it going to be another 5 hits? Again, the 5 hits won't be that crucial here, but may matter later on. And that is going to be enough to get Talonflame under 50% with those 5 hits. Another defense drop could possibly lead to the Dragonite getting knocked out here because of a knockoff from this Incineroar, and from that range for sure gets the KO.
Yeah, could be doing some important work here. The Dragonite's going to go down, but Joe's kind of working toward an end condition, which is that 4th Pokemon. And both of these Fire-type Pokemon now have been greatly weakened. Torkoal's going to whiff once again, failing to potentially pick up a knockout of that Talonflame. And now the Tailwind for both Pokemon, both teams, is expiring. We see Jumpluff coming back out, perhaps trying to match the Tailwind and work toward a Tailwind sweep win con.
Yeah, so that is 2 missed overheats for that Torkoal right now. That is unfortunate to see if you're Joe, because of the fact that that has led to this position right now. Missing that first eject pack special attack drop, huge, as well as not being able to break that Talonflame's Gale Wings, basically making sure that the Talonflame doesn't get priority on any flying type move. So now Jumpluff has to figure out what the best course of action here is. Is it to match the Tailwind? You can't put the Incineroar to sleep. Putting the Talonflame to sleep seems like a waste if that Talonflame can get up a possible Tailwind anyway, and then you're just 1 turn behind.
Yeah, sort of an awkward spot here, and yeah, I mean, keep in mind, at least there is no more Gale Wings now. The Jumpluff's to be the fastest Pokemon in the field, going to Encore the Incineroar instead, trying to prevent it from doing anything too disadvantageous, but there is that Tailwind.
Yeah, so Talonflame gets to set up the Tailwind on this turn. Gonna lock Incineroar into knockoff, gonna hit that Jumpluff with that knockoff and knock off that Covert Cloak, as Torkoal can tend to go for another overheat, but it misses. This Talonflame has been dodging all the overheats as the sunlight fades.
Things are just really going wrong for Joe in this set. Once again, maybe at this point the Talonflame really should be knocked out, right? And now on Joe's side, you need a lot of things to happen, right? Like, you need Tailwind to go up, you probably need to reset your Sun somehow, and then you need to get that last Pokemon out in the field. I just don't know how you do that from here. Things are going so wrong. I think cycling Torkoal out is necessary, so kind of thinking about it, right? Well, I need this to happen, but can I realistically expect that this slot won't be targeted and I'll get Tailwind out? I just don't know how you make that happen. Perhaps hoping to force a switch on the Incineroar with the Encore, but I think it might be fine just using knockoff here.
Yeah, so also Dragonite getting knocked out so early on, no access to the Ice Spin to remove the Psychic Terrain if that Indeedee is hiding in the back there. Torkoal switches out. It will reveal Typhlosion as the last Pokemon that Joe has on his bench here. So this Typhlosion is going to be the end game. Talonflame using Flare Blitz connects and gets KO on that Jumpluff. So no Tailwind for Joe's side of the field, and now it's going to be Torkoal and Typhlosion versus all for Pokemon Carson side.
And we all know what move's coming in because it's been encored.
Yeah, it's going to be a knockoff here. Incineroar using knockoff, knocking off the Choice Spikes, and gets the 1-hit KO from that range. Both players are shaking hands, and it looks like the writing is on the wall. Carson Confer is going to be your Sacramento Regional Champion.
Really impressive set and a really impressive tournament by Carson. Joe doing everything he can there to kind of maneuver his way back to the game, but it wasn't enough. I think Carson did a really great job on team preview every game, where the Pokemon he selected kept Joe a little bit off guard, and Joe did a fantastic job to battle back with that amazing Ice Splitter in the second game to keep himself in the set. But Carson was kind of one step ahead the whole way here. What a worthy regional champion.
The battle was canceled. Carson Confer is your 2025 Sacramento Regional Champion. Congratulations to Carson. Congratulations to Joe, too. Joe, another finalist spot here at the Regional Championships. Carson Confer, a Regional Championship for you, as well as an automatic World qualification. Way to pilot this hyper-offensive team.